Okay, hello guys. So I am doing another one of these commentary videos, and this is just me looking at different videos of channelers and just giving my opinion on what they're saying, kind of breaking down what they're saying based on my own personal experience, my own research, and things like that. If you want to look at the previous ones I've done, that might be helpful because I find that these channelers, they all say the same thing and they're all kind of pointing you in the same direction. And to me, it's not necessarily a good direction. Also, it's kind of funny. I realized that me doing this is kind of similar to what I've done in a past life. So, in a past life, I was a radio host and I read the news on the radio, but I also had a part where I would give my opinion. And I would talk about some pretty outlandish stuff. Like back then, people weren't really talking a lot about conspiracy theories, but I would talk about them. Like I was one of the only people who would talk about fluoride in the water and things like that. And people would just kind of laugh. It's just funny how I'm kind of doing the same thing now, where I'm talking about things that not a lot of people believe, but probably in, I don't know, 50 years from now, people will believe it. So, whatever. It's fine. I'm going to leave a link to one of my past broadcasts, like from the 1950s, if you want to listen to it. But I know it's kind of it's a very, very strange thing. But yeah. Okay. So I'm going to show you some of these videos and then I'm just going to give my opinion. So this is a lady, Lisa Royal Holtz. She's not super, super popular, but she apparently channels a Pleiadian named Sasha. So I find that a lot of the New Age channelers, they say that they're channeling a Pleiadian, but oftentimes it's a different type of being. Oftentimes it's this being that I'm going to show on the screen. Other times it's like an insect being. Other times it's a cyborg, like a robot, literally. With this woman, I see her as being very strongly connected to this star race that I'm showing on the screen. Okay. I can't tell you how common this is. Okay. So this is what we're listening to here.
Hello, Sasha.
Hello.
Thank you for sharing. I look forward to contact. And my question is, if I'm out looking at the stars at night, aside from seeing ships, if a brother or sister galactic of mine landed and was presented right in front of me, what would be the best things to say and do to best represent myself and humanity?
Oh, my goodness. No pressure here, yes?
So just a reminder, she's this star race to me. That's what she's connected to, but she's saying she's connected to Pleiadians, which it's something that a lot of them hide behind. Just this image of a Pleiadian with like that looks very human like, looks very nice. So,
Okay. I'm going to answer this question from my point of view. If I, Sasha, landed in the field, what is your name?
Carolyn.
Carolyn.
Hello.
If Carolyn came to meet me, how would I feel the most welcomed? First, that Carolyn has a big ol' open heart, and I can feel it. So she's not afraid of showing me her heart. We know humans want to ask a bunch of questions. Where are you from? What's your ship made out of? What's your propulsion system?
So, what they want to kind of plant in our minds, and it's very telling how they have to do all of this preliminary work and this preliminary brainwashing by doing these big conferences and getting people to channel their information because they know that if we're not told in advance to have an open heart and to be accepting of them, we probably won't be. We're going to be like, this is weird. Like, no thanks. You know what I'm saying? Um, and this is very common to hear with these new age channelers where they don't want you to be in this mindset of waging war against them. They want you to just stand there and accept whatever's going to happen to you, whatever they say to you. So this is what they're really saying. And they don't want you to be questioning what they're doing. Like she's kind of this woman, this being that she's channeling, they're kind of making fun of how humans are curious and question things. Like, why not? Why can't we question things?
Etc., etc. Please spare us those questions. That's not why we're there. Why we're there is to feel your heart and for you to feel ours. And so most likely, now, no one has ever asked me what my ideal contact would be.
And doesn't she sound like, she doesn't really sound like what you would think a Pleiadian would sound like. She has this more almost robotic, almost um, like what you would think this star race would sound like, more calculated, more, yeah.
Thank you for that gift. My ideal contact would be that Carolyn is there with her big old open heart, looking at me with love, and I can feel it. And I'm standing there with Carolyn, and I'm looking at her with love. And we stand in silence, sharing one heart together. Do you think you can do that?
Absolutely.
And maybe someday later you can ask all the other questions. Yes.
Okay. Do you need me to put my hands up and feel my energy, or you'll just be able to read me and my aura and know that I am of peace and love and welcome you?
We do not need you to do anything. You could stand like a stone. You could stand on your head if you want, as long as we can feel you.
As long as you don't question them and you don't do anything against them, against whatever rules they're going to place on you.
Your true emanation of love is all we need.
Okay, so I'm also going to show this video and just see what is said. So this is the same woman.
Are here today, heard us speak in the conference in Mount Shasta. And one of the things that was said there is that we talked about this idea of the prime directive of the one as it went into separation. And we talked about how the prime directive, the way we view it, is separated into two parts. One part is when the one wants to understand what it's like not to know itself, wants to understand itself from the perspective of separation.
So again, I know this is going to seem repetitive from the last two videos, but I just kind of want to show you that they really see our higher spiritual worlds as numbers. So she's referring to what we know as God, who is I mean, the quality that is so playful and loving in humans, that is God right there. That's not an equation. That's not zeros and ones. It's an actual, it's like a person, you know what I'm saying? And in my perspective, the higher spiritual worlds, it's more about family. It's more about basically love between family, but they really like to use numbers and calculations to quantify God. Because the thing is, with these more fallen races, they can't really understand it otherwise, which is kind of sad, honestly. But yeah, it is actually very sad because it's not really their fault that they're in this situation, but we can't really let them drag everyone into their view. And they've kind of taken over things, they've taken over so much, especially in the spiritual space. Like people love these kind of channelings. So I also find, for example, the law of one. Who is one? What's one? Is one a thing? Is it a person? Like, anyways. So this is just something that I notice with a lot of these channelers. So it's not a surprise.
Similar to the idea that you can't see your own face without a mirror. So, in the idea of separation, then, the one can see different facets of itself. So, that's part one of the prime directive. And while this might be an exciting adventure for the one, probably many of you would say it's not such an exciting adventure to be the fractal experiencing the challenge of the separation in order to reflect this idea to the one, yes? But part two of the prime directive is that once you have experienced the multitude of fractals of separation, there comes a point that now it's time to bring the fractals together and to remember what it's like to experience the joy of reconnection. So we liken then the journey of a species in a third density reality, which is the highest level of separation, as being part one of that prime directive. And as a species begins to move into fourth density, they then begin to transition to part two of the prime directive, which is the remembrance. The remembrance and the joyful experience of the reconnection.
Okay. Did you hear how she said reincarnate? She tried to say reincarnation and then corrected herself to reconnection.
Of the reconnection.
It's just incredible how these channelers, they'll make these mistakes. And it's like they say what they really mean to say, and they're like, actually, I meant this. Like, go look at the previous two commentary videos I did, and they both do that. It's just, it's just incredible. But, anyways, to me, we have full authority over our journey. We have full authority over our soul. Yes, I do think there are what we call NPCs where they don't really have free will. They're very much part of this system. And that's why they have this knowingness in the back of their mind where they're not really interested in where they're going to go after this life because a part of them just knows that they're not going anywhere. Um, so yeah, then we hear this stuff and we think that we have to follow this track that they're setting for us. I don't think so. So, as I've said, this whole idea of going into 5D, that is going into the astral. I can't stress that enough. And I'll leave a link to one of my articles about the astral. Maybe that will help understand this more. But yeah, in I think the last video I did, where I talked about, I think it's called Should We Ascend to 5D? I went more into depth on that and how the 5D is just the astral and all of that. Okay.
Back to the one. So the good news, my friends, is that because of your transition into fourth density now, you've changed primarily from the part one of the prime directive into the very beginning phases of part two. Now we know you might be looking around your world.
And the fact that they're telling you this now in this life, they're setting this up for you because they want you to think this way in the afterlife. Your thoughts create your reality in the astral, in the afterlife. So if they can implant this way of thinking here, then yeah, you'll do exactly what they want.
Part two. Now we know you might be looking around your world and beginning phases of part two. Now we know you might be looking around your world and seeing all the division and all the chaos and polarity that's happening on your world and wondering how in the world can this be a sign of us moving into part two of the prime directive? How can this be a sign of the joyful reconnection or the remembrance itself? That brings us now then to this idea of planetary energy and the planetary energy on your world at this time. No matter which country you live in, we know there are something like 17 countries represented in this workshop. We know that wherever you live, you are seeing your version of the same idea that appears on the surface to be massive polarity, massive fractalization, massive resistance. The good
It's just so annoying to hear this because guess who's responsible for all of that polarity? So I find with these new age channelers, they will say things like, oh, you have to you have to learn to just be more calm. You have to learn to just trust, have faith, blah, blah, blah. But they're the ones, like, honestly, sorry, like her star race and a bunch of other ones, a bunch of other fallen star races, they're actually the ones who have put all these technologies onto Earth to make us be the way we are, you know what I'm saying? And then they channel themselves through other humans to kind of make it seem like it's our fault. Like, oh, why are you stressed? They're asking us, oh, why are you like you guys walk around fighting with each other, you're in polarity. Well, who's responsible for that actually? They are responsible for it. These groups, we'll just show here some examples, but anyways, yeah, I just
good news is that this that you're seeing on your world now is actually a sign of the deeper shift that's
and this is why she's hiding behind the Pleiadian thing. So the Pleiadians like I actually consider them to be the Nordics. Like they kind of hide behind that nice image. Like she's not going to say that she's actually this because if she did, people wouldn't trust her. They'd be like, "Hey, aren't you supposed to be the ones who are evil?" So, yeah.
Happening that is bringing to the surface this, let's say, toxic, unhealed energy that is needing to come out.
So she's basically saying that all of that toxicity you feel, all of those negative thoughts, like everything that goes wrong in your world, just like it's coming to the surface now for a reason. It's not coming to the surface because of the frequency weapons we use on a mass scale and all of the toxins that we put in the food and the water and all of the weird stuff we put on TV and movies to brainwash people on like an actual spiritual level, not just the type of stories that they show. That's one part of it. But so that's something that she's leaving out.
So, not that we could say, oh, yes, the toxicity on your world is a good thing. It's more that it's just a sign of the deepening energy that's happening, the deepening energy transformation that's happening under the surface. As you know, the bad news or the negative things is always what gets the most attention. But there is something, there is some energetic force that is pushing all of this toxicity to the surface. As some of you may say, finally, yes? So, in looking at it from that perspective, then, we can say that your transformation is happening in a very predictable way, not necessarily a smooth way, but a predictable way.
Well, because they are behind all of the chaos that happens on this planet. So, all of the news that comes out, it's all calculated by them because they want us to fight with each other. They want us to distrust our government so that when they step in, we really trust them. Everything that's happening right now is kind of orchestrated by them. So, yeah, it is going exactly how they thought it would because they're totally in control of it. Even when you have someone who is sincerely trying to make a positive change, and there are a lot of people who are. There are some CEOs, there are some politicians who sincerely are trying to do something good to help free humans. They like this race will come in and just just steer it in their direction.
According to the rules of energy dynamics. So
Sorry, I'm just going
if you
back.
energy dynamics, not necessarily a smooth way, but a predictable way, according to the rules of energy dynamics. So if you can then, as you are navigating this difficult time on your world, really try as best as you can to have that bigger view and understand what is happening and do your best to tend your own garden and to do what you need to do to help you stay in that, let's say, higher vision frequency, let's say, because it can be very easy to get dragged back down into the old third density paradigm that is purging on your planet now. So when we do contact energy, then contact work, it gives you an opportunity and a tool even to continue to teach yourself how to resonate with higher frequencies, not as an escape. This is really, really important. This is not an escape. It is an attunement. This is a very different idea. Now, we understand there are some people that use contact and ETs and that kind of thing as an escape, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about using it as an attunement to the higher frequencies, the more natural frequencies of who you are as a hologram.
Okay. So she is actually saying that we are a hologram. Okay. So they want us to be thinking of ourselves. They want us to think that our consciousness can be transferred into maybe a hologram or into one of these worlds that they're building out, these astral worlds. Yeah, that's the way they really do see things. Okay, so I'm going to do one more. Promise. This is the last one. So let's see.
Okay. So we love it when we hear, because then we know we're not talking to an empty.
So, really, does she not move and sound like one of these? I thought Pleiadians were supposed to be these very kind of gentle and soft sounding ETs. Um, anyways,
Empty room. Okay, so now what comes next? Once again, we remind you that we're taking a journey in consciousness and using contact as the vehicle through which this journey can be taken.
so it's all very technological, it's all very technology based. So this is a journey of the consciousness. So your consciousness, they always like to kind of separate that from who we are. And she also mentioned that something about contact is the vehicle. So again, it's not you. It's like you by yourself can't naturally ascend. You by yourself, you don't have powers without doing these little things like doing contact, getting into vehicles.
So we will be jumping back and forth with awakening a consciousness and contact. There's so many angles we can take. We're going to actually use an example from one of the decades of contact work that we have helped the channel experience. Because in the 80s and part of the 90s, a lot of it was here, where the consciousness was trying to break through, but didn't yet understand, because the collective consciousness of Earth was not at that place at that time.
Again, why wasn't it at that place at that time? What was going on? What kind of weapons were placed on our Earth by these other star races? She's not talking about that at all. The reason why we feel off, it's not just us. They have like, I guess you could call it a frequency fence around where we are. They have a lot of stuff. I can't even I'll just leave it at frequency weapons, but there's other stuff too. Like I said, there's stuff that they put in the food. So they have control of the food supply. They do all kinds of stuff. Put different frequencies in music. They do stuff like this, like these massive marketing campaigns where they're channeling through people. Uh, so much stuff. I can't even begin to go into it, but pretty much every area of our lives has been touched by them. So, yeah, that's something that she's not really bringing up, but she's just focusing on this idea that it's our fault for constantly being in this state of negativity and stuff.
The consciousness was not yet understanding the greater scope of contact, so it was looking for the ships in the sky. I see a UFO, or there's this being on the ground. And as we have outlined for you today, that is not the foundation. So the 80s, the 90s was a lot of that. The 2000s came, and from our point of view, we began to shift the contact work. And we began to help groups have a different type of experience that would be an experience above the jelly band. So what kind of experience is this? The beings who began to come in contact work at that time, most of the time were not singular beings like Sasha standing there poking you. It was beings or groups of beings that represented collective consciousness. So for those of you that maybe have read Prism of Lyra, or you know of some of this channel's work, you know we speak of a group called the Founders, who are...
So I've heard many people, many New Age channelers who channel from the founders. And someone who does, I saw his video recently. He is also one of these fallen star races. So I'm just telling you, like, I'm just telling you. Um, yeah. And again, these fallen star races. So I'm going to show them on the screen, just like the names of them, because I find if I say them, like I just don't want the video to get flagged. But they just don't have the knowledge that we do. They don't have, sorry, but they don't have the spiritual capacity that we do. It's not their fault, but we have to just understand that they're operating from a very restrictive viewpoint, and yet they have such a huge platform to channel this out everywhere. And the thing is that they can do that because it's just very automatic for them.
are like original architects, but they are massive group. We don't even want to say group consciousness. Let's say they represent like the first levels of fragmentation from the one. They manifest often, well, we don't want to say they manifest, people perceive them as praying mantis or the long...
Yeah. The guy who channeled the founders that I saw in that video, he's connected to this really big mantis being. So that's weird that she just said that. So, okay, that is interesting. So they're these big mantises. Okay.
spindly, tall light beings with big heads and big eyes. These beings were coming in the 2000s with the groups to help them be able to recalibrate to the frequencies of this collective energy, to remind you again of who you really are, not you as the separate self, but you as the one.
Okay, so that's it for these videos. Thank you for listening to my broadcast. Yeah, I will definitely do more of these because I just feel like I'm on a roll with them right now. And I'm gonna do my other videos as well. Like I'm working on those too, like my elemental videos and things like that. So if you come across a video that you think would be good to do a commentary like this, let me know because I don't listen to these a lot, but every now and then, if I'm on Instagram or something, I'll just see a short clip and then I'll go and look at the full video if it looks interesting. But honestly, you'll see that it's all the same stuff. So thank you so much for watching and definitely share this with someone if you think they would be interested. And please, I never say this, but please like and comment below what you thought. I will talk to you soon.